Hello and welcome to Brass Bites. My name is Andy and I will be your host. In today's episode, I had the great pleasure of spending time with the world-renowned trombonist Ian Bousfield. Ian has had a very fruitful career as an orchestral player, soloist and teacher. As an orchestral player, his career has spanned over 35 years, playing with orchestras such as the Halle Orchestra in Manchester, the London Symphony Orchestra and the Vienna Philharmonic. And as a soloist, it'd be far easier for me to create a list of places that he hasn't played rather than places that he has. Ian currently teaches at the University of the Arts in Bern and the Royal Academy of Music in London. His fine work was recognised in 2012 by the International Trombone Association when he was awarded a Lifetime Award. On top of all this, Ian runs a podcast called The Ian Bousfield Experience and has also written a book entitled Unlocking the Trombone. So I invite you to join us for episode 1 of Brass Bites. Good morning, Ian. How are you?
Morning. Good. Nice to meet you. I don't think we have met before live, have we?
No, but we did have a class, which you came to the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, and I watched that online, and that was fantastic.
Cool.
So great to have you on the channel today.
Good.
Joining us from Switzerland, and me in Cardiff. Welcome to Brass Bites. So, Ian,
that's a very interesting title you've got. I like that. It's a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, inspired by a lot of things. So, tell us, take us back to the start. So, how did it all begin?
You sent me the questions ahead of time, and that was the one that fascinated me the most, because actually it reminded me something about my childhood. I think we knew what was going to happen when I was three years old, and I went around to all of my neighbors' houses and tap danced for them. And I couldn't tap dance, I just kept falling over. But I think my parents must have realized that they'd got a kind of fruitcake and, blood idiot, and that I was going to be some kind of performer. So that's when it kind of became obvious, I think, from that point of view. And then when I went to school in a kind of farming community, and it was very clear that I was quite different. And my parents actually, in fact, moved house to get from the countryside into York, where they thought, the chance of me finding more like-minded people was going to happen. And within 2 or 3 months of moving to York, I was inspired by my headmaster in the junior school to take up the trombone. I saw him playing the trombone and just went up and said, "Look, can I have your trombone?" He said, "Yes, you can. Here's a trombone, and you got a lesson next Wednesday." Back in the days when that kind of thing used to happen for kids, and everyone got those opportunities.
Fantastic. Yeah, I also grew up in a rural area in Cornwall, though. So yeah, so having the opportunities in a rural area is some areas are better than others. I know in Cornwall we've got all the brass bands, and also in York you also have the brass bands. Yeah. So that's really, really interesting to hear about that. Sort of taking a bit of a different angle on things, so taking us back to now. So 2020 has been quite an interesting time for all of us, especially with this pandemic. No performances or limited performances, or the performances that we are doing are online. So how has your playing, your practice, your general life actually changed since the pandemic?
Well, stating the obvious, I'm home. I've been traveling 6 months of the year doing concerts, conducting or playing, and doing masterclasses and that sort of thing, or coaching. And that all stopped 8 months ago. And in the beginning, I liked it. I really enjoyed kind of having, working Monday to Friday and having weekends. I never had that before in my life. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to spend time with my wife, and I have 2 young children. And it was great walking in the Alps, and because we were never really locked down in sort of like an English or a Spanish way, like they just kind of said, well, work from home and try and keep away from each other, sort of thing. And the Swiss, being the Swiss, they did it totally diligently. So it was nice. I mean, I've been into all of the online coaching and all that sort of stuff in podcasts of my own, and that happened, and we found a very successful way of doing that. But it's now wearing extremely thin, and I think many of us are fighting depression. And those are words that I didn't think I would ever hear coming out of my mouth, because I don't think I naturally tend to depression. But, and it's a subject that I find even now, it's like, I could very easily tear up talking about it, because I'm a trombone player. I've been a trombone player since I was 7 years old. And someone just said, you can't do this anymore. And there's a difference between having a holiday and wanting a break and being told you can't do it. And that now is wearing really thin with me. In the beginning, I was okay, because nobody told me I couldn't play the trombone for myself. And my first love has always been the instrument itself and my relationship to the instrument. So I literally haven't missed a day. Actually, that's a lie, 2. It was 2 days in the last 8 months, because I still love doing it. And you asked another, because you sent the questions ahead of time, you asked a really good question about how did my practice change? And that is an interesting question. Because because I didn't have any looming technical threats, I kind of went back to just what I love the most about playing the trombone, and that's making a beautiful sound and playing a beautiful melody. And that's basically what I've spent the last 8 months doing. I'm happy doing that. And I'll go into a room and do that, for 40, 50 minutes, just really enjoy just playing basic, simple exercises. And I feel as though my basic technique now is much stronger than it was before the lockdown. I feel like I'm in a better position now to push the accelerator to do more difficult technical stuff. And as it stands, where are we now? This is the beginning of November. In 4 weeks' time, I'm due to go and do 17 concerts in Copenhagen, conducting the Tivoli Gardens Orchestra. Sounds like a big deal. It's 17 concerts in about 4 days, because they have to be socially distanced, so you're doing 4 concerts a day kind of thing. And I've got that, and I've got a brass quintet, some brass quintet concerts in Copenhagen or in Denmark with Gabor Takavi and that sort of thing. And if they don't happen, I think I may well have to find some fitness regime or something to fight the depression. Because at the moment, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. I've got all of these concerts in Denmark, and I'm just kind of really hoping that they happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all hoping for something. I think for me, I'm quite lucky that universities are still open, and I can still do a couple of performances at college. So that's kind of keeping myself going. But it's quite interesting what you were saying about going back to basics and sort of getting your all your basic skills right. And that's what you enjoy doing. I think that having a clearer mind sort of equates to having a clearer sound. So how would you, is that how you would feel about creating sound?
Well, a clearer mind creates a clearer sound. That's interesting. Huh? I've never thought of it in exactly those words. Oh, well, it's like when you do anything, isn't it? The more clear your thought process is, the easier it is to achieve what you want to achieve. If your mind is cluttered, you can't. And that kind of brings me back 2 points following your point, which is a very interesting point. Is that we are all, it's my belief in human beings, is that we're all intelligent and stupid, and we're all disciplined and lazy, each one of us, in different aspects of life. And so I'm kind of disciplined and logical with my approach to playing, and not too much else in life. And as a great colleague, a great recently retired tuba player said to me, all of my life I've known that I can work really, really hard. But I've now discovered that I'm also talented at doing absolutely all, you know? And so, yes, clarity, and where this is going, linking into what you're saying, is the most clear-minded students are the ones that I've had that have been the most successful. And by that, I don't necessarily mean the most intelligent, although some of them have been very intelligent. It's been their ability to receive and process information clearly, without a filter, without something saying, what I think he means is. No. The words come in, they accept the words, they respond to them, they consider what was being said, and they act on it. Clarity of thought, clarity of vision leads to success for students. There's no question about it. You know, I mean, it's the oldest thing in the world, but going into a room and mindlessly banging your head against the wall is going to get you nowhere. I'm not I never have been a big practicer. A lot of people find that, they think I'm lying, you know, but I've never really, even when I've really been going for it, I've never really worked more than 2 hours a day in a practice room. But those 2 hours have been incredibly targeted. I'm doing this for this, then I'm doing this for this, then I'm going to do this. And I like, it's not that I don't want to do more than 2 hours a day. I just don't like the freshness that I lose in my embouchure if I do 4 or 5 hours practice a day. The only
I think efficiency
yeah,
and consistency is definitely something to think about during a structured practice, and especially for me, I changed my embouchure in my first year of college. So actually, my stamina going from being able to play 4 hours a day was only limited to half an hour a day. So you're actually being able to build that up. And I think it's actually quite interesting listening to players like you and like the principal cornet at Black Dyke, Richard Marshall. He only plays for an hour a day and he's at the top of his game. And it was quite interesting sort of hearing that. I'm just going to move on to another question because I've got a few questions. So just moving on from the mental preparation to playing and performing, I believe that you have a specific mode for performing called no mistakes mode. Could you just elaborate and explain sort of how that works?
Yeah, I didn't have that when I was your age. Well, that was just something that I said in the class that I did for you in Cardiff a couple of weeks ago. But it's one of those things that builds up over the years. There are two aspects to it. One of the things you can only learn by time, and the other aspect of it you can really do as a student. And the first part is, yeah, I think a little bit when I was in the London Symphony Orchestra, this started to grow and develop, but it was in Vienna where it was solidified. In the Vienna Philharmonic and the Vienna State Opera, I would do easily 300 performances a year, easily. I could go back and get an old schedule and add it up. I would say conservatively 300, plus my solo performances. And most of those performances in Vienna were without rehearsal. And so you'd go to the Vienna State Opera, you do Salome, you do Frauen Schatten, you do the Magic Flute, you do Die Walküre, and there would be no rehearsal. You just turn up and the conductor would walk past you and off you go. 5-hour ring cycle operas and that sort of thing. And it's got to be like, somehow, this has to happen. The repertoire is coming past so fast, you don't have time to prepare for everything you're doing. And you have to get this mindset of this, and then this, and then this. Because somehow, you've got to put a credible performance out there. And so your mindset moves more on to successful acquisition of what's on the page, as it were. Stupid way of putting it. but you can't sit there and just knock everything over. So your mindset is different. It becomes not how do I want to do this, but it becomes what do I have at my disposal? Can I do this?
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Sort of taking each
and
day how it is and accepting where your playing is, to be able to produce and perform what you need to do on the day.
yeah, yes, absolutely. Now what a young player can do, and I realize I'm automatically doing this the whole time when I practice, is students seem to be, understandably, in a research project. It's like, how would you like this to sound? What's your best version of this? And you have 25 goes at it. And there needs to be some point in every day where you sit down and you say, one go at this. This is reality. This is truth. Go out, get yourself a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, sit down, look at a newspaper online or whatever, come back, walk into the room and play that piece of music. That's where you are right now. What have you got? Can you play this or not? Because too much of it is sort of like, oh yeah, okay, I'll stop. I'll do that another 50 times. And that's why when it comes to auditions and concerts, people suffer so much because they're confronted for the first time with having to deliver something. And yes, you can do performance classes, but actually you can bring that into your own practice room every day. So that's the
Yeah,
no mistakes mode.
I think it's a really really interesting concept, and definitely one that sort of breeds the mindset of acceptance, which I think is great. I'm glad that you mentioned the LSO, because in my research on YouTube, searching around, I found a great recording of you playing a duet called Cousins by Herbert Clark, with the great Rod Franks. Sort of, could you tell us sort of what that experience was like playing with uh, such incredible players such as Rod Franks?
It was no big deal, really. I mean, Rod and I were best friends. He never forgave me for leaving him when I went to Vienna. We had breakfast, lunch, and evening meal together every day on tour for 12 years. Our families met up, our kids were the same age. And if I wasn't working, I spoke to him on the phone every day. He was my best friend. I've lost my best friend. And there was something about, I never, ever had to guess when he was going to play or how he was going to play something. We seemed to have this kind of telepathic relationship working together. And when we did that recording of Cousins, we just knocked it out. It was like we didn't have to rehearse it. We just played it. It was easy. Maurice Murphy was the opposite. He was a bloody nightmare to try and work out because you see, the thing is, he didn't know what he was going to do. So how the hell did I know? It was like he was very sort of like inspirational and spur of the moment, and even when you thought he was going to do something, couldn't work it out. John Wallace was a bit like that as well, because I recorded Cousins with John as well on a solo album I did on EMI, and John was a bit like that as well. It's like seemed like he was going in a certain direction, then he turned back and go that way, which is, I guess, what makes people interesting. So we had a very strong brass section in London there, and we didn't see each other as being great players or legendary players. We just turned up and hung out and played together, It's only now I found a recent live performance of Copeland 3 with Tilson Thomas at the Proms in 1994 or something like that. And you listen and you think, bloody hell, we were going for it. It was really, it's like, wow, we were crazy. We were really taking risks. It was amazing. So yeah, they were good days. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And sort of, I know we're very tight on time, but you are an incredibly busy musician, sort of both with your solo playing, your orchestral playing, your teaching. Sort of, how does Ian Bousfield switch off from being Ian Bousfield, the trombone player?
Do you know what? I guess I don't. I think yesterday, I mean, it's interesting you're talking about being busy. Initially, in March, April, I wasn't busy because we hadn't caught up with the online stuff. And now I'm doing classes all over the bloody world the whole time again and enjoying it. And I'm incredibly busy again. So the vacuum has been filled, even though I'm kind of pretty much at home. But my wife and I, over the weekend, said, we have to have a break from each other and from the kids. We're stressed, we're depressed. We need really our own time. I need my time. And she needs her time. You know, 2 or 3 sessions per week where she's away from the kids or I'm away from the kids and we're not on top of each other because we're together the whole time. And we've never had that luxury to do that before. And she was trying to work out which mountain she was going to climb, you know, on her free time. And she said, what would you like to do with your free time? And I said, practice without feeling guilty. You know, playing the trombone is still my hobby. And yesterday afternoon, I went down into my practice room and I'd been given a free pass to go and practice and just feel good about it. And I did that and I enjoyed it. So that's one thing. No, I like walking in the Alps. We live near here. We have a pool outside. It's getting a bit cold to swim in now. But, you know, most of us who have reached this position in our careers are obsessive personality types. So I'm sitting on top of a wine cellar with 3,000 bottles in it, and probably 2,600 of them come from Burgundy, and I'm obsessed with the wines of Burgundy, and many of my friends are Burgundy wine producers, you know, so who I've known for 25 years. And if people wonder why I took this job here in Switzerland, it's 3 hours by car to Burgundy that way. That's why.
Ideal.
You know? So, yeah, there you go. So I guess that's what I do. I play with my kids, but then my son, who is 7, plays the trombone now. So even when I hang out with him, we warm up together. So it's kind of like planet trombone here, really.
I think you I think it's really, really inspirational, sort of how you've explained your whole career within 20 minutes. And I really thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Sort of just one final question, just to wrap it all up. Sort of this is going up to students mainly. Sort of, what's the best advice you would give to anyone or anyone in general wanting to take their playing to the next level?
Well, it depends what that level is, I suppose. But I'm trying to think how I can do that generically for everybody, all students. I guess awareness of where you are, where you have come from, where you wish to go, and what the next logical step is for you as a person, as a musician, and as an instrumentalist, in that order. In order to go on a journey, we need to know where we've come from and where we want to go. So yes, it's good to have high ideals, but knowing what the next step is, what the next logical step is. I'll tell you a quick story that's worth, and actually I put this on my last podcast, but that's just come out today, I think, but it is worth repeating. My uncle, who's 77 years old, he's trained as a blacksmith. He's a farmer, and he only did it from the age of like 15 to 20 or whatever. But on the farm, on the family farm, they still have a forge. And once a year, he gets a knock on the door, usually end of August, September, and it's another local farmer. And he's holding a broken piece from a combine harvester in his hand. And the local combine harvester dealership has told him that he's got to wait 2 weeks for a new part, but he needs to harvest that field today. So my uncle goes into the forge and he fires up the fire and he gets some metal, and there's a lot of hammering and shoring, and then he says, okay, I've made you a new part. And they fit it on the combine and off they go again. Now the relevance to that in the practice room and taking us to the next level is having etudes, having exercises written down like Alan Bitsuti or Bordonis or whatever, or Arbans, good, fine. But the key to the next small step in a practice room is designing your own handmade, specially hammered out exercise that you need to get you over the next tiny hurdle, because it's tiny steps by tiny steps that make a big development. So rather than just repeating what your teacher has told you, always do what your teacher tells you, but rather than just doing that mindlessly and taking in something from an album exercise and playing it, good as they are, and we need to do that, it's the thought process. Going back to your first question about clear mind, what tiny little part do I need to build into my practice to get me over this next step? And that is a smart student. And that's how you take yourself onto the next level. Slowly, carefully, and in small steps.
Thank you very much, Ian. So for all of our listeners, please check out Ian's website. All his podcasts are on there. They're really, really interesting to listen to, really informative, just like the interview today. Thank you, Ian, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we might see you soon.
Yes, that would be nice. And good luck with these podcasts.
Thank you. So there we have it, the end of episode 1. A big thank you to Ian for sharing his time and experience with us, and for being very honest about his life. That final piece of advice is definitely something I'll be using to shape how I plan my future goals. Check out the links in the description for his website, where you can access his podcast, The Ian Bousfield Experience, and look out for his book, Unlocking the Trombone Code. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to receive notifications when a new video is released, and follow us on social media at Brassbytes. If you have any comments, please leave them below, or just email us at brassbytes@outlook.com. But for now, keep blowing, and I'll see you next time.